Community Designs is proudly brought to you by Design Build Expo, Australia's ultimate trade event for architecture, building, construction and design professional communities. Visit designbuildexpo.com.au for more information.
Hi, Monique Brady-Ward here, and this is another episode of Community Designs. We're joined today by Rob Adams, and we're standing in Errol Street in North Melbourne. Rob, tell us why this place is so significant.
I think it's significant because if you look at it, it would look very much as though it has been for decades. Yet it's possibly a really good example of where our city is going to have to change in the future. What we're seeing around here is the repurposing of existing infrastructure. So we've got a library in the retail tenancies, we've got a town hall that's become a cultural centre, it's the art house. And in the area around us, a lot of the grey asphalt has been repurposed as central medians with tree plantings or open space. And the challenge, I think, as we go into the future is we're not going to have the money to build new infrastructure. We're going to have to repurpose what we've got. So what looks like old might well be the future.
Yeah, great. And so we're going to have a look at a few spaces around here. Should we go check it out?
Let's go.
We're at a park at the bottom of Errol Street. Rob, tell us why this is so important.
I think this is important because what's happening here and is important as cities expand their population is we've taken infrastructure that existed in a previous format and changed it.
Yeah.
So the bluestone we're standing on used to be the curb line for a road carriageway, and if you look behind us you'll see the road continuing up. That has been combined with the central median to combine into this park that used to be 500 square metres as a roundabout and has now become a 5,000 square metre park. If you were to go out and buy that on the market for a space, for open space, it's $14 million. Local government can't afford that, and so this is a way of achieving that same end. The other thing that I think is important about it is that we're seeing the memory of what used to be here in the bluestone and the curb. And so, you know, people who might think you're changing the historic character of the area can see that they can reinterpret it in its new format. And that was important because we were actually taken off to VCAT by 3 of the residents who didn't want us to change the streetscape. And that was one way of placating that problem.
And there's a school behind us. Maybe talk about the impact that it's had on the kids.
Well, local space, local open spaces are where communities meet. And, you know, as an immigrant to this country, all my new friends came through my children, the people I met at school. And so we've got a school here that's gained new public space, but we've also got a community that comes together now in this place. And I think that's really important. I think for our urban areas, as they become more hectic and, you know, more people, having a place where community get together, be it a community garden or, you know, a park like this, that really is important to, the way we identify with our area.
And it's so close to the town hall as well.
It is. I mean, we walked past a median that used to be Central Road car parking, which is now grassed and got tree planting in. So the whole area is becoming more about people and less about cars.
Should we go look at the other corner?
Yes.
Rob, tell us a bit about this corner here.
Well, what we've had to do here is because there were existing trees in the traffic island, and being Moreton Bay figs with the huge roots, we decided to actually create that platform that you can see.
Yeah.
And that's given people a place where they can sit and they can have a picnic, and allowed us to mitigate some of the problems we might have had with people tripping over roots. So a lot of that is actually, a lot of the design is determined by the place, and that's what we've had to do.
So how do you actually choose the spaces that you turn into parks?
Well, with the possibility of infuriating every traffic engineer, essentially there are a lot of spaces, if you look in cities, where engineers have painted a white line and hatched it, and what they're saying is we don't need the space, so you can take that. There are a lot of parking spaces. The 20 metres before you get to a corner can't be used for parking, so you can take that space. So it's a question of looking at your city and saying, do we really need all of the space, or is this built for just a peak? Or is the space never used? It was just laid out because people decided a street had to be this wide. And you'll be surprised how much space you can take out of a city. In fact, we've taken 86 hectares out of central Melbourne over 30 years and repurposed it for medians, parks like this, widened footpaths. And that's really enabled us to humanise those areas as we've gone through.
Where did it all begin?
It all started in Carlton and Lygon Street and back in the early 1980s.
Should we head over there?
Let's go and have a look.
So we're standing on the median strip on Lygon Street in Carlton. Rob, tell us about why this street is so important.
Well, this is where it really all started in the early 1980s. When we came up with the idea that we needed to start calming the streets, one of the very simple ways of doing that is expanding the footpaths and cutting a median in the middle of the road, because you don't find many of the services out in the middle of the road. They're usually on the edge. So Lygon Street in many ways is the forerunner to a lot of the other projects we'll be looking at in this series. And there were many lessons. I mean, we started by, in fact, the trees that run down the road used to have parking between them, but that was not working. So we then just moved the curb out and took more space for the pedestrians and less for the cars. So this is where it all started in a funny way.
The cafes, shops, and they all sprawl out onto the
Well, what's happened with that is that it's enabled the cafes to have an extra trading area. So as with the lanes and arcades in central Melbourne, you've made businesses that might have been marginal, more profitable by giving them that space on the footpath. And Lygon Street, as we know and love, has plenty of restaurants that take advantage of that.
Should we cross the road and go check out Argyle Square?
Let's do that.
These blossoms are so amazing. Has this always been like this?
No, it hasn't. In fact, this space, as you see it today, is just over 10 years old. And what it used to be was a bowls club. And then the membership dropped down and it became not free car parking, but car parking for the local area. So it was decided that to reintegrate the whole park, that we'd actually remove the bowls club and we'd build what they call Piazza Italia. And so that beautiful blossom, yes, those trees were planted in, I think, about 2003. And again, I think this is a classic example of repurposing something that had gone past its use-by date and creating a new space for this local community. And it gets very well used. In fact, you can see the cinema screen behind us. And on Saturday evenings in summer, the kids turn out and we do the cartoons.
You've got people sitting under the trees. It's amazing leisurely space. Let's go to something a little more active. So we're standing on what used to be Neil Street in Carlton. Rob, talk about the transformation of this space.
So, as you say, we're right in the middle of what would have been a road. You can actually see the road behind us. And we've got Drummond Street cutting across, which has also been turned into a park. So This is an example of a whole street that's been taken in and around the high density housing that we've got, and the need for active play spaces, places where kids can meet after school and play. So we've got a combination of a square where you see skateboarding, we've got swings, we've got futsal, and we've got basketball, and they also play bike hockey. So the utilisation of that in a very positive way has enabled this community to come together around what is now a very important public space to them. And again, cost us nothing. It was just asphalt, and a few cars have disappeared and a whole lot of people have reappeared. So for us, that's quite an important transition.
Yeah. And talk about the sustainability factors of the space.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems we actually face in the city is a lot of our surfaces are hard paved, and if they're hard paved, we're not getting penetration by water. So wherever you can get green spaces, soft spaces, and you can get water back into the ground space, that's important. Also the trees. We're trying to go from 20% canopy cover to 40% canopy cover, and this is a great opportunity to in fact increase the trees, and that's part of what we've been trying to do.
And so was this part of a master plan for this whole city block?
Yes, if you go through Carlton, you'll find a number of areas. This is one of those. If you go to Berkeley Street, up by Carlton Gardens, all those streets had medians put in. It's generally been a project around looking at a precinct and trying to really upgrade the green space within that.
Maybe talk about some important spaces for the City of Melbourne.
There have been a number of major spaces. I suppose one of the biggest is Birrung Ma, where 8 hectares of redundant rail infrastructure has been now turned into a major park for the city. So there's a really significant one. In terms of widening footpaths and planting trees, Swanson Street, all the footpaths for about 900 metres were actually widened by 3.5 metres, and 100 trees planted. Return to Royal Park used to be a car park and a hospital, and has now been turned into a major playground for the children and people of that area. So those are some of the other projects that we've been working on, and I suppose even going around with you today, I realise as we move from one site to the next, the number of projects where asphalt has been converted into green space, and it's a large area. I've said 86 hectares. I'm starting to wonder whether we're underselling it. And from our point of view, it's been really rewarding to see that you can adapt a city over what's been 30 years to a more people-orientated city.
Your tenure, really?
Well, I've been lucky enough to be there for that long, but there have been so many people involved in projects like this that it's no one person who makes a difference. As our populations increase in our cities, and Melbourne's going to double its population in the next 50 years, we will not be able to build infrastructure in the normal way. So projects like this will become the norm. We will get more density within the existing areas, and our ability to get more out of the infrastructure we've already got is going to be a significant way to meeting a pleasant future.
This is an extremely active space. It's obviously a key piece of urban infrastructure and a really great piece of urban design. So join us next week for another episode of Community Designs.